Let's zoom into what's happening in the East African region of our continent as far as news are concerned, and we take a look at some of these stories with our journalist and team leader at Grassroot Journalism Kenya, who joins us as our regular analyst on Tuesdays, Dennis Beru. Dennis, good morning to you. How are you on this Tuesday?
Good morning, Asanda. I'm good. Hope you are well.
Well, thank you very much. We start with your home country today on our East Africa wrap. Kenya, there is a strike there in a major airline in the country. What are the grievances of the workers? Why are they on strike?
Thank you so much, Asanda. Of course, we are now experiencing flight delays that are departing from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi due to the ongoing strike by the Kenya Aviation Workers Union. And the disruption stems from a labor dispute between Kenya Aviation Workers Union and the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, KCAA. And KAU announced that its members will down their tools on Monday following a 7-day strike notice issued by KCAA. And of course, the grievances that now arises from the ongoing bargaining that there are some of the demands that their employer has not met, and some are poor working condition, and to a point the officials were saying that their members are living in a pathetic conditions. And the major airlines that include the Kenya's national carrier, the Kenya Airways, have informed passengers of flight disruption at JKIA from February 16th. And Asanda, and in a statement on Monday, the carrier noted that the industrial action has affected some departure and arrivals, and they have been advising passengers to expect a schedule adjustment and delays.
Is it both domestic and international flights that are affected?
Of course, yes. Both domestic and international passengers have been affected, and the carrier has also advised passengers to check flight status before traveling to the airport. And I live just nearby the airport, and I have seen, the commotion, traffic, and Nalapa along the way towards the airport, where passengers were turning back from the airport after realizing that there are flight delays.
So, as you mentioned, one of the main unions behind the workers who are on strike did issue a 7-day notice to say they will strike. They didn't just, one day decide they're not showing up for work on Monday, as you said. Was there a response then from that notice from authorities? And if they didn't respond, why did they not?
Yes, Asanda. There was a 7-day notice, and I remember they even the authorities went to court to see whether they can stop the strike, and there was an injunction by the court allowing the workers to proceed to work, and then their representatives will instead continue with the discussion. But they went against the court orders, and that is what we are now seeing now.
All right, let's go to Madagascar, where Cyclone Gezani has killed at least 35 people there. What are the major challenges then in terms of reaching those who are still looking for assistance, who are alive? Because one can imagine that roads are probably damaged.
Yes, Asanda, Madagascar has been experiencing, the Gezani cyclone that made a landfall on Tuesday, hitting the highlands, a main port that is towards Mina. Madagascar's disaster management office said there was a total chaos, reporting that houses collapsed in the impact zone where the bodies were found, and the neighborhoods were plunged into darkness as power line snapped, while trees were uprooted and roofs ripped off. As as of 250 people are affected or displaced. This is according to the Environment Minister, Mark Fortune Antonirina, who told BBC on Thursday. And there are huge challenges that include disruption to food supply chain, to the fuel transport, and of course, we are seeing medical access, because most of the major roads are cut. And Gezani is the second cyclone to hit Madagascar this year. This comes 10 days after the tropical cyclone Fotia killed 14 and it displaced over 30,000 people. This is according to the UN humanitarian officer. And Asanda, remember, the island rulers are now pleading for the international support. And remember, the leaders who just came to power in a few months ago after a deadly protest. So they are trying to face these challenges and ensure that the country is now stable. And according to the National Office of Risk and Disaster Management, said many were killed when houses collapsed. A cyclone Gedani hit Tuasmina, which is now the country's second largest city, with wind reaching up to 250 kilometers per hour. That is very huge.
Yeah, and I mean, it is cyclone season for the areas of Madagascar and Mozambique. So one hopes that contingency plans can be put in place that are more effective moving forward, because this is not something that's going to end anytime soon. Let's go to Malawi now, Dennis. The country is aiming to drop the inflation rate to below 21% this year. Malawi is funding reliant. So how realistic is this goal? Can they reach it?
Yes, Peter Mutharika, when he came to power, of course, he found a very low, and the country was really struggling economically. And one of the promises was to bring the inflation down. This is a donor-dependent South African nation that has struggled to rein in inflation, which now currently stands at 26% year on year, and has been above 20% since the middle of 2022. And when Mutharika returned to power in September, of course, one of his manifestos were to ensure that the Malawi economy is revived, and after years of crisis and crippling foreign exchange shortages have disrupted imports of fuel, fertilizer, and other essential goods. And he was speaking to the lawmakers and saying that his goal is to ensure that the economy grows from 3.8% in 2026 to up to 4.9% in 2027, up from 2.7% rate. He said his administration inherited from the previous regime. And of course, Malawi is trying to negotiate a new support program from the International Monetary Fund, restructure its debt, and boost dwindling international reserves. And Mutharika also added that a foreign exchange reserve remained below 3 months import cover, and a level widely recommended as a buffer against potential stocks. So let's see, Asanda, whether Peter Mutharika will revive the economy. Remember, Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll see how that one goes. South Africa, the next story we're looking at now, they've called for the African Union leaders to force a ceasefire in South Sudan. Can you force a ceasefire, especially looking at the history and where we come from with South Sudan? Is this possible?
Yes, it is very much possible, and we've seen Cyril Ramaphosa during that ninth meeting, the AU summit in Ethiopia, where he delivered the closing remarks at the Africa Union ad hoc high-level committee for South Sudan plus summit held in Ethiopia, and the summit convened the sideline of the 39th ordinary session of the AU Assembly, head of states and government in Addis Ababa. And some of the recommendations from the sideline were to ensure that there is a ceasefire and all hostilities must be brought to an end. And there was also to be a release of all political detainees and should also include people like the Vice President Riek Machar, who is now going through various processes of a legal nature. We are also seeing calls to have a free and fair election where Cyril Ramaphosa said that the election must go on and not be postponed. There also should be a coordination of the efforts to work through the IGAD secretariat as well as the C5, and of course the chair of the commission should work together with the three IGAD head of state, which composed of the sitting presidents, who will work with the C5 and will have an oversight role to monitor and support the implementation of these processes in South Sudan. Cyril Ramaphosa is a champion of peace, and we saw when Kenya had the post-election violence in 2007. He was one of the mediators, and let's see whether they will push and ensure that, of course, one of the recommendations, if they passes, one of them being election must be held in 2026, that is around December.
Right, let's leave it there for today, Dennis, for our East Africa wrap. We'll catch up with you next week, Tuesday. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you. Dennis Beru is journalist and team leader at Grassroot Journalism Kenya, giving us our East Africa wrap. And that's where we'll end that chat for now. Let's get our news headlines. It's 6:30 Central African time. Here's Jolani Tulo Mwepe.